Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News Channel. Hello, Maverick family and new viewers from all around the world. Great to have everybody here. Unfortunately, tonight we are continuing our coverage of the Tumbler Ridge school shooting, where tonight we have blood drives taking place out in British Columbia, and I think even maybe across the country. We have fundraisers to assist the families of the victims, and we have the names, the identities confirmed of the 8 people involved, shot, killed in that mass shooting at the school, secondary school out in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia. And when we come back on the other side, Angie Clowry is back from British Columbia to help us navigate our way through our coverage tonight. Stay with me.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, we're back on, and joining us now live from British Columbia, Angie Clowry. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us tonight, and I do appreciate it because I know that you've been in touch with people all through the region. You've been looking at this story again through the day today, and I'm sure that you can help us with the most up-to-date information tonight out of BC. And I know that you personally have been talking to people, and you are also going to, I think, a blood drive tonight. Can you just talk a little bit about that community effort and people coming together?
Yeah, well, I wanted to do something, and obviously money is definitely needed. There's a couple of GoFundMes going. There's a couple for the specific families of those who have passed away and those who are fighting for their lives in hospital. There's also the Parent Advisory Committee that has gotten together, and they are doing a fundraiser as well for the families that are affected. And so wanted to do something. And so I called a couple of girlfriends and started posting it on social media that the least I can do is go donate. So here in Kelowna, we can donate plasma. Other places have blood or plasma. So if you go onto blood.ca, anywhere in Canada, I think it's just an easy, simple thing that we can do in honor of those in Tumbler Ridge. And I've had a couple of people respond. A couple of people are originally from Tumbler Ridge that just said thank you. And I think like that's the least that I can do.
Mm-hmm. So you say you can go on blood.ca?
Yeah, that's Canadian Blood Services, and they'll show you where the nearest location is. And, you know, we definitely, my understanding is Canada still buys about 60% of the blood that's needed in Canada for emergencies, from everything from, you know, babies to elderly. So if I can add a couple of pints or two, then I'll definitely be doing that in honor of the families and children in Tumbler Ridge.
Okay. So I know that there are a lot of things like that going on. Now, you say there are a couple of GoFundMes that have been set up, at least a couple, I would think, maybe more. What do you know about that?
Yeah, so I know it went wild. The first one, there's little Maya who is fighting for her life in Children's Hospital in Vancouver. I know that last time it started almost at 90,000, and now it's grown as well. If you go on to shoot, let me just get that back here. I'll have that link for you in just a sec here. But I know that one also, they've raised some money for some people that have passed away because they do need help. There's also one mother who lives in Port Alberni, so on Vancouver Island on the west coast. So she's trying to get back to Tumbler Ridge because unfortunately her daughter has passed. So there's a number of GoFundMes and I should call it crowdsourcing that they are fundraising for. And then the Parent Advisory Committee of Tumbler Ridge High School has created one as well, and it, I believe, is up to $250,000 as well. So the outpouring of support and finances is growing. And yeah, I think you just want to do something. And last night they had a candlelight vigil in Tumbler Ridge. They also did in our capital here in BC in Victoria, where I know all the MLAs took part in it that were in Victoria at the time. And I know there's one here in Kelowna. I believe that's going to happen this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
here are some photos, and you say that these photos circulating online were taken and posted by someone with a local media.
Yeah, absolutely.
Channel.
So there's a fella up in Tumbler Ridge that is similar to you, that hops on and does what he can for his community and people that follow him. It's called Tumbler Ridge Lines. That's where the locals have all been going and have gone for their local news for quite some time. That gentleman, he's been on interviews. Yesterday I saw him for 8 hours a day, and so he said he was really going to focus. But if you go on there, they'll say hundreds gathered to support the victims, families, and each other. There will be a story with this, but for now, there's just pictures. So that's what the community has been sharing.
Okay, so that is from last night, and we also have the victims all now named, confirmed by police, and this is what we have so far in terms of photographs that have been released. Do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, well, I looked into a little bit today. So Abel, his dad, said some really nice things, and that he was a really strong, really astute student who was considering starting to be homeschooled. Unfortunately, he's passed away. Ezekiel, another one that's really loved and respected in the community. All of these kids are 12, and there's one that's 13, so very young age. Zoe Benoit, her mom showed pictures on social media of her just being a little girl, and also told a story of her cousin and a sibling that were also in the school with her younger sibling, I believe, being not too far away at the elementary school. Kylie Smith, again, these are just young kids who've lost their lives, and it's devastating. And then we have Emmett and Jennifer, and we believe that that's the assailant's mom and brother. I believe Shanda, that is the teacher. I believe she's 39. Mm-hmm. And then we also have Takara, who is also 12 and 13 years old. It's unfathomable, and especially in Canada. We haven't had anything like this, especially in a school or an educational atmosphere, and I think it's 30 years.
Yeah. This is, I believe, the father of Kylie on CTV. Short clip.
Beautiful soul. She's a light in our family. She loved art and anime. She wanted to go to school in Toronto, and we just loved her so much. She was thriving in high school. She never hurt a soul. She was a supporter, LGBTQ supporter, and she was the last person who ever deserved this.
She was in grade 7?
Grade 7, yeah. 12 years old. She was 3 months away from her 13th birthday.
Can you describe yesterday? I mean, she just went to school like any other day, right?
Yeah, I let her off. I let her go to school with her brother Ethan in the morning, and I had soaked in that moment watching them walk in the door together for whatever reason, and I didn't know it would be the last time they'd go to school together. But
when did you learn something had happened, or how did this come to you?
Ethan had called about 3:05 after he had text messaged saying, "I love you." And he called and said that he was in a utility room and that he was hiding and he didn't know where Kylie was.
Sorry, can I just say something? I just want to touch on this. Like, I see...
How old is he? Sorry.
He's 15.
Okay,
but
sorry.
when I open social media, I'm seeing lots of stuff about the shooter. I'm seeing the ideology stuff. And I don't think any of that matters when there's 9 other souls that were lost that day. Like 7 kids and 2 adults. And we need to put their pictures up on social media. Like, there's a hero named Maddie Levesque who did CPR on my daughter for 45 minutes. And she was the one who came and told us 9 hours later that our daughter had passed because the police hadn't said anything to us. Like, these are the heroes. You want to put someone's picture up on the news, put Maddie's picture up, put my daughter's picture up, and Takaria and Abel and Ezekiel and Maya, who's still fighting for her life. Put all their pictures up. Let's stop giving this psychopath the recognition, because these kids were lost before they got to become teenagers. So let's put their pictures up, please, and remember them, not this murderer.
You must have known all these kids.
Yeah, I taught some of them soccer. Most of them were in Kylie's class. One of them was Kylie's best friend.
Takaria was Kylie's best friend. This is so devastating to our community.
I walked around our rec center for about 6 hours looking for my child. The police wouldn't tell me anything. I went home not knowing where my daughter was until a high school kid named Maddie Levesque came here and told us her story about trying to save my daughter's life. The police didn't tell us anything. We had to find out through the community and through kids and rumors in the stands. We had to count because we were watching the news put up body counts and we weren't being told anything. And so we were doing numbers and math and figuring out, is our kid in a helicopter or is our kid dead? Like, it was so much confusing. No one told us anything all day.
There's going to be a lot of Canadians watching this. What is your message to people who are seeing this and feeling your pain?
Just hold your kids tight. Tell them you love them every day. You never know. You never know. That's all. Yeah.
It's about her.
Too. Let's get that guy's face off the internet. Let's put these kids up there. They're amazing kids. I knew them all. I taught them soccer. We went to school. All these families know each other. We grew up together. And
it's a small community.
These are the kids who deserve recognition.
We all know each other. This is devastating not only to our family, but to so many other families. We live here because these things don't happen.
From CTV.
Wow, such powerful and such strength in those parents to be able to speak about that so soon after. Kudos to them, and what a great message. Yeah, let's put the victims' names up there. Let's get rid of the story, and there's lots of stuff that needs to be investigated. I trust that the doctors and everyone else that's been involved with that family is really, there has to be an investigation into that, has to be an inquiry. And, I do realize there's such a divide politically in regards to all of this, but they said it the best, let's honor the kids. Let's leave this alone, because it's really no one's business. Right. And I understand how people are passionate and they believe certain things, but there's also, 12 and 13-year-old kids that have lost their lives. So let's honor that, and let's support that, and let's share their photos.
It's one of the reasons I did not use any of the photos that were posted online even early of the shooter. And the other reason is that we don't have a photo, as far as I know, even now, of the shooter that has been released by police, which leaves me wondering about the accuracy or authenticity even of some of the photos that have been posted online and continue to circulate as being accurate and factual. And I have some video that I may show in a little while of the person who is said to be the shooter. I don't know even if this video that I'm going to share is authentic, and that's the reason I may show it during the broadcast, and it is because there's been so much uncertainty, um, and I've seen streamers putting photos up, making a mistake, and taking photos down as well. So I'm trying to be very careful about everything that I do, not only for reasons of accuracy, but also for compassionate reasons. What have you seen and what are your thoughts?
Well, I also think there's a responsibility, and I think this is where you and I both struggle with this, being former reporters and journalists. I think you have to get it right, and there are times when I have gotten it wrong, and I have posted something or shared something, and it's caused devastation to families. So, um, I think I kind of, this is mean to say, but I kind of hope that there's one specific person that posted a bunch of information about an individual and was the wrong person. It was the wrong individual that they posted on there. And so that circulated. And I do hope that someone civilly sues them for what they have, because I realize that this is a platform. And if you haven't had any strong leadership, strong journalism etiquette, maybe you don't have to go to journalism school. I went to broadcasting school like 25 years ago. And, I've had some really good news directors who show me the ropes. And now, I keep telling the story here where, about 15 years ago, they fired all the news directors at, Bell Media, CTV, and all of those. And I think this is the challenge. What I've done on my own socials, I've been sharing the information about the GoFundMe's, about the one, it's like see ya later, CIA, and then later, that's Maya's mom. So I've been sharing that because I think that's where we need to keep our focus is, if you believe in prayers, if you believe in good vibes, or, just having a conversation with your children. I think it's so important. My sister works in a school in the Kootenays, and they have had many emails and conversations about just what's happened, and what if that happens. And so now, we used to do fire drills, and I know some places did earthquake drills, but now I think it's obvious there has to be another kind of emergency drill. I know in the Okanagan Valley that RCMP were more in touch with schools over this week as well. The RCMP noted that they had more boots on the ground and just talking to kids and having conversations and encouraging parents to have those conversations as well. And there's such a stigma with mental health. And I've talked to a number of people today, and you had an amazing woman on last night who touched on it, where her son, struggled and lived with mental health. And, it's such a challenge. I have friends and I have family, and I work with those who live with mental, I call it unwellness as well. And it's, we really need to look at that at another time, in regards to what those pharmaceuticals will do. Many of them, the top thing is suicidal ideations, right? So that's a whole other program. But I think, what I've been doing is sharing the good and the great, can't really call it great, but more like putting the grief to good. So trying to, that's why me and a couple girlfriends are going to go donate plasma tonight. That's the least we can do.
So how much has this impacted not just the local community, but the entire region and the province? How much do you think it has of an impact as it had on Canada?
This is life-changing. This is, it's going to be it's kind of like our 9/11, so to speak, because we haven't had this, and it's children. So no matter who you talk to, my parents are in their 80s. My colleagues I work with, everyone is talking about it, the RCMP all over the province, fire departments, BC ambulance service. Everyone has made a post. So I think this is really affecting a lot of people. And like from where I am in the Okanagan, it's a 12-hour drive to Tumbler Ridge. It's over 1,000 kilometers. It's still, but we have a lot of connections. You know, when I posted I was going to go donate plasma tonight, inviting other people to do so. This one lady said, I grew up in Tumbler. I have a niece that was involved there. Thank you for doing this. So I think it's just one of those small communities, and I don't believe there's 2,500 people there. So it's the size of my hometown. So if you can imagine, you know, your kid, your grandkid, your niece or nephew, or yourself growing up in a small community, and you know, there's 8 people that you know that have passed away, maybe 9, like that's telling. And I think it's like anything, I hate to say it, but stuff like this re-traumatizes us if we do have, you know, challenges, or we've had a loved one die, or, you know, has taken their own life. I think we really have to be cautious. But at the same time, this is when the best parts of humanity and community actually show up.
We have seen also responses on the political side, and I think partisan politics largely have been set aside,
Mhm.
both federally and provincially, as this is addressed. And today we saw just a short time ago, actually, the lieutenant governor and the BC legislature um, addressing this. And let me bring this up for you.
Honourable Speaker and members of the Legislative Assembly, in closing this first session of the 43rd Parliament of British Columbia, on behalf of all British Columbians, I note that in this session we enacted 33 bills covering areas of substance and importance to the people of this province. I wish to express my appreciation for the care and attention you have given to your deliberations and the service that you have provided to our great and beautiful province. I now relieve you of your legislative duties.
I don't know if this is the right
Splendor,
clip.
Senor Ocaso.
I think perhaps I picked the wrong clip, and I apologize. Here, let me pull this down. I'll take a quick break, and we'll come back on the other side, and I'll get my clips organized here better. Stay with us. Be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get it. It's I might not be able to get it for you. But I do have these, which might be more appropriate to look at. So we have all 8 victims identified, and some of the background information on them. Abel Wansa, 12 years old, described by his father as being ambitious and smiling. Ezekiel Schofield, 13. No real information provided by the family. Kylie, we heard from Kylie's parents, her father, in that CTV clip. These images being provided by RCMP, being reposted by all media tonight, including, in this case, CBC. This is coming from their website. And this is Zoe Benoit, 12 years old, described as resilient, vibrant, smart, caring, and the strongest little girl you could meet. Her family said she brought so much laughter and smiles in her presence. And they say, "We miss you, beautiful girl, Zoe. We love you so much." Takaria Lampert, 12 years old. And no photo released of the teacher, Shanda, 39 years old.
There's also part of the GoFundMe with Paige Hosta. She's one of the 2 girls who was airlifted to Vancouver for surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, everything changed for our family. Her brother wrote in a fundraiser. Paige was airlifted to Vancouver after being shot, and she's in surgery right now. We're still trying to wrap our heads around it. All things happen so fast. The fundraiser is aimed at collecting on unexpected costs of travel, being away from work, and the medical care we will need. The Tumbler Ridge Parent Advisory Committee has partnered with local organizations to launch an online fundraiser to raise funds for the families directly affected by the shooting. It has raised more than $260,000, or that's by this morning. An additional vigils and memorials held across the country. Flags are currently being flown at half mast for 7 days. The Legislative Assembly stood for moments of silence today, and our Lieutenant Governor Wendy Kachia gave a speech in honor of the community as well.
Mm-hmm. And another post here for Emmett Jacobs, 11 years old. And there's Jennifer Strang.
We believe that to be the mother
Yeah.
and the brother of the assailant.
Yeah. So tragic all the way around. And the politics running deep on this.
I think it's just not politics. Like I shared with you, I used to live in the Peace region. So I used to live about 2 hours away from Tumbler. I lived in Fort St. John. And so I called a girlfriend who I believe, she's been to Tumbler. We used to go to Grizz Fest. It's a music festival that was there. And so I just checking in with her, and she just texted me. She says, I'm too angry. So, when you have something that close, and she was one where she, I believe I told the story the other night where she was with, I can't remember if it was her daughter or her partner in the car, and a police car ran crazy past her. And she said, that's either a mass accident or a gun. And then a little while later, 2 more RCMP vehicles went racing by. And then they got the alert to shelter in place for Tumbler Ridge. And to receive that, even though you are 170 kilometers, 2-hour drive away, definitely frightening, hits close to home for all of those families. And, on one hand, it's very much needed to tell everyone to shelter in place. On the other hand, that's also traumatizing. So I know that there are more RCMP resources, and my understanding is mental health. I don't know if it's clinicians or there's more support going to the area, because that's definitely going to be needed. This is changing not just lives, but worlds, having 12 and 13-year-olds gone. You send them to school and then, they don't come home. And the 2 still fighting for their life. And I'm understanding there's 25 in total that have been injured. So, that is huge, because I think there's only 170 kids in the school, if I'm not mistaken. So that's
yeah. I think I have the I don't know if I have. I just give me one moment again. I'm trying to find this speech from today.
Sure.
I think I have it.
If you want, I can share Abel's information here.
Sure.
In a public post, Abel Maswana said his 12-year-old son, also named Abel, is among the dead. Our son went to school this morning, and it happened that someone came to school with a gun, went into my kid's classroom, shot some kids, and my son was killed too, just like that. The father said on Facebook in a post that was received more than 1,400 comments. Maswana said his son loved being at school and cried recently at a suggestion that he would be homeschooled. This is a child that I've raised to respect elders, answer to one call, be strong, work hard, and put a smile on the face like I do. Focus on his studies, never miss school, and to be a good kid. Maswana said his son left home on Tuesday morning to be shot like a stray dog, murdered in cold blood. He said that he is grateful for the 12 years and 11 months he got to spend with his son. Ezekiel Schofield, I have his information here. 13 has been identified as one of the victims of the shooting. So many young lives were ended so needlessly, his grandfather Peter Schofield said in an online post. Our hearts are broken, not only for Ezekiel, but for every family affected by this tragedy. Please keep all of Tumbler Ridge in your thoughts and prayers as the community begins to navigate the days, weeks, and years ahead. We feel absolutely broken.
I have the Lieutenant Governor here
of British Columbia.
Message from the throne and from the sacred territories of the Lekwungen, Songhees, and Esquimalt people with respect, compassion, and sympathy. We begin this session with heavy hearts following the tragedy in Tumbler Ridge. Our thoughts are with the victims, the loved ones, and a tight-knit community suffering unimaginable pain. We hold them in our prayers and stand with them in their grief. Today, the people of Tumbler Ridge are wrapped in the care and compassion of an entire province and a country that mourns alongside them. We are profoundly grateful to the first responders, the healthcare workers, the teachers, and the school workers whose courage and swift action help save lives. Their service reflects the very best of our province. In times of sorrow, British Columbians come together. May we carry that spirit forward, supporting the community and one another in the days and months ahead. If I may just take a moment, and on a personal note, like His Majesty King Charles, Her Majesty the Queen, and Her Excellency Mary Simon, I wish to add my personal message of deep love and support to everyone in the community of Tumbler Ridge and that is affected by this tragedy. As a mother, it's absolutely impossible to comprehend the pain and the sorrow that people are experiencing. Nobody thinks for a moment that you will send your child or your loved one off in the morning and that they will not return. My heart aches for everyone in this situation. And again, we send our deep appreciation to the first responders and healthcare workers. When Mayor Daryl Krakauka was asked many times, how can we help? He said so many times, you can offer a hug. And I think that that is very wise because at a time of deep grief, often we retreat and we withdraw. But what often helps the healing process as well is connectivity. I want the people of Tumbler Ridge to know unequivocally that we are always here for you and we will always have a hug waiting for you.
The next Lotto Max jackpot is an
Well, I will say I see a lot of anger out there, in addition to sorrow, and I also see political opportunists exploiting the situation, frankly. And
I think
it's
it's really frustrating that the United States media has grabbed a hold of this. And it's unfortunate the way our television and our media has worked for since TV came on is we get fed United States information all the time. We're very well versed in that. And now we have organizations that are, pun intended, trumping up this whole entire issue and, kind of making it their own. And I think we have to remember as journalists, former journalists, I don't call myself a journalist anymore, but I think we have to acknowledge the fact that when you share something, when you like something, when you comment, that's how people get paid. They get paid on that. So with their sponsors, and you can speak to this. I'm super respectful to you. You try to find both sides of the story. You at least give an opportunity. Whereas a lot of these folks who are right leaning, they don't give that opportunity. They just don't. And so many Canadians call down the CBC, but I find that they are biased. I believe that, but at least they do get parts of both sides of the story. Whereas I don't want to call them friends, people that we watch who are doing their own podcast, they don't interview the other side at all whatsoever. And so if you are in that echo chamber, you are going to get exactly what you want. You're not going to get the correct information.
That's right. This is the polarization. It is because if you want to build a channel or a social media platform as a podcaster, streamer, the most effective way to do that is to tap into people's emotions and go to one side or the other. And that is the nature of the medium now. So you get exactly that, an echo chamber. You keep reinforcing what it is that people want to hear. So there's always been bias in media, but it's amplified today. And it's resulting in entirely slanted coverage, narratives, and I would say inaccurate reporting, and now even fabricated reporting.
It's really just opinion
Reinforce
pieces.
that. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's injecting highly opinionated content into what appears to be or is masquerading as balanced journalism, and it is not balanced at all.
And I think part of the issue is some of them get really heightened, really screaming, really shouting, really bigger than anything, and they have almost 1 million followers, but when you're sent the other side of the story, they don't pick it up.
And
I would speak to that personally.
And I will show you that it's easy to get caught in a mistake as you rush to chase those clicks and chase the monetization. And this is one of the reasons our platform here on Maverick isn't larger than it is. It's because I have been very resistant. I've become even more resistant to the temptation to just put up clickbait and to throw ethics and caution under the bus in the pursuit of being first at any cost. And in this case, this guy got caught. And I've been watching what's been going on over there, and embarrassed himself by posting an image that appears to not be accurate, and then took it down and posted a retraction, which is to his credit, I guess, for doing that, but made a big mistake. And I guess people will or will not forgive him based on their own assessment of things. But this is what you try to avoid, and that's why I didn't post any pictures of the shooter initially at all.
The issue is it's not just about that post. It's the fact that numerous people shared that post and also screenshotted that post and shared it everywhere. So I do hope they hold him accountable. Like, that's one that I said. And that, like, from the get-go, like within 30 minutes of them posting that, I think the majority of us knew that it was the wrong person. And so I think this is, And, you know, if we were broadcasting on radio and television, we would be governed by the CRTC. We would get in trouble. We would get fined. We would potentially have our broadcast license, you know, removed, or you end up having to apply every 2 years instead of every 7, for example. And so I think that we do need something like this to hold people like the pleb, like Viva Frey, like Rebel News accountable for not sharing correct information, for not sharing the other side of the story.
See,
You
yeah,
know,
when you're in the mainstream media, which you have broadcast licenses, you have made promises of performance to serve the community in particular ways and provide local coverage and make investments as a broadcaster to serve the community. You belong to organizations that are committed to certain standards of journalistic ethics, including organizations like the Canadian Association of Journalists. And there's also accountability through organizations like the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council. And so if you want to complain as a viewer because you see something you don't like, if you see unbalanced coverage on a mainstream media outlet like CBC, CTV, Global, any of them, local station at the network level, you can file a complaint as a citizen to the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council, and they will hold the journalist and the broadcaster accountable for that. I had a couple of complaints leveled against me when I was working at CTV, but in the end, the determination was that I was accurate and fair in my coverage. It was just that, I could share the details at another time. It doesn't really matter. It was because of, a murder case, and the brother of the person accused didn't like what I was doing by telling the truth. So they filed a complaint as an example. But but point is, you can hold the mainstream media accountable, but not so easy to hold somebody like Alex Jones at InfoWars accountable, or any other media outlet that just springs up and starts posting things online.
Well, I know that Alex Jones has been sued for, is it $1 billion?
Yeah. So I guess, but it takes a lot. It takes resources.
How many millions did that cost?
Yes,
right. That was in regards to a unfortunate school shooting down in the States, saying that it was a theatrical, event. Like, what an asshole thing to do and say. But hey, on some good news, I do have some good news here in regards to one of the injured from Tumbler Ridge. Paige Hoekstra was airlifted to Vancouver after being shot and has undergone emergency surgery. Her family has shared that Paige suffered one gunshot wound to the chest. She's now officially out of danger and in recovery. Her mom and sister have been by her side in the hospital since the beginning. In the middle of trauma like this, families are left facing unexpected expensive travel time from work and ongoing medical needs. Right now, their focus is simply being there for Paige as she heals. A message from Paige. I want to tell everyone that I'm okay and I'm recovering. We continue to hold Paige and her family and the entire community in our thoughts. So my understanding, there was 2 that were airlifted. So one is in recovery. There's actually a photo of her up here. And I'm trying to find out where we can find this. Oh, I believe it's on her GoFundMe page. Let me just open it here. If you go on GoFundMe, donate to help Paige and her road to recovery. $37,000 of a $65,000 requested. So that's some excellent news right now.
Okay, I can show that. And there's that GoFundMe right there.
Yeah, and if you scroll down, it says a brief message from Paige. I want to tell everyone that I'm okay and I'm recovering. #Tumbler Ridge Strong. And it shows her if you keep going down there. There you go. That's her in the hospital recovering right there. So that's brilliant.
Well, that's great news. And there's a photo.
Yeah, imagine coming back from that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And there's also, I was sharing with someone recently, There's a term called survivor's guilt, where people don't understand why they weren't taken. And, you really have to have, a strong mindset, a strong community to, to challenge you on that, because that can be a challenge for those that survive. And I've worked with those with addictions, mental health, and trauma for, about 6 years now. And I'm not educated by any stretch of the means in mental health or anything, but, that's one thing that Gabor Mate says is, not everyone that has trauma has addiction, but everyone that has addiction has trauma. So it's something that I hope everyone holds close. And when you grow up with a small, tight-knit community, like of under 2,500 people, I believe leaning on each other is imperative.
So just to come back to this, I first became aware of this video, which Alex Jones is sharing tonight. I became aware of it through the night last night, and I looked into it, and I was confident that it was authentic based on the people who were sharing it, and then the research that I did to verify its authenticity. But then even after I shared it on our X account, I was still uneasy about it. So after a while, I did take it down. And even as I posted it, I said, it appears to show the shooter. I didn't say it was, I wasn't making a full commitment to verifying its authenticity. It's disturbing looking video. And the reason I took it down is because I didn't feel it was being shared with full context. It was accurate. It is accurate to say, I think that it's this person. Although even tonight, there's still some speculation or some controversy over whether this is truly authentic. But I do know that this video was posted to Jesse Ruetzelar's social media page. It was posted, however, like 7 years ago. And while people are saying this is the shooter from 7 years ago, I'm still not 100% convinced. And and whatever this is, it appears to be not so much a mental breakdown. It was actually some sort of a theatrical thing that was done. Not because this person was having a mental breakdown online. They were pretending to be like a joker or something like that. They were acting at the time, is the information that I've been able to come up with as I've researched it. But this is why I took it down, because it's being shared widely with, I think, incorrect framing as to what it really was and is. And it says here, demon possession is real, is what Alex Jones is posting. Instead of calling an exorcist, the left knowingly weaponized the entity and turned it loose. This is Jesse Van Ruetzelar, the 18-year-old trans shooter who murdered at least 10 people. And that's inaccurate. We know that now because the number released by police initially was wrong at Tumbler Ridge school yesterday in Canada. So even after the number of victims was revised by police, Alex Jones still posting incorrect, out-of-date information. I lost my monitor here. Give me a moment while there it is. I'm going to bring this up and I'll share the rest of this. Instead of dealing with his obvious mental health issues, Canadian health authorities convinced Jesse he was trans and pumped him full of hormone puberty blockers and a whole heap of other medication. They literally poisoned his body and mind instead of getting him the help he actually needed. And I don't think you can argue this issue, but my point is, as a journalist, I don't think the information in there is entirely accurate. I think that's sensationalistic, and he is posting a video here of someone who may or may not be. I think it is Jesse Ruetzelar, but I can't be 100% certain. And even if it is, it's not because he's having a mental breakdown. This is play acting or cosplaying or something where he's pretending 7 years ago, before beginning the transition that he was going through, he's acting like the Joker.
So there's a couple things with that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that mainstream American media, and I do include Alex Jones in that are now going to interfere with Canada and talking about stuff that's going on here. It's kind of nice when we're a sleeper community.
Oops.
Joe can
Sorry.
say that it's a drug lab, the nice neighbors sitting up top of the drug lab that the United States acts like at times. And I shouldn't really say that for the job that I have. But as a person who has, lost multiple defamation cases to the tune of $1.5 billion, you think that jackass Alex Jones would at least have his crap together. And is he posting that, or does he have one of his minions doing that? So I just take offense of it, because I don't want Alex Jones in our political landscape. I've had enough of Americans buying, selling, and trading whatever they want in Canada, to get our oil, to get votes, and also to bribe Canadians to go to the United States, while they keep telling us how horrible we are because we don't have a constitution or a backbone. Well, pound sand, Alex Jones, and Americans who think that, and the Canadians that do too. Go away. Enjoy the United States. Ta-ta. Canadian Constitution.
Yeah, we do have one.
But
they say it down there
tell
all
me
the
this:
time.
why does Viva Frei and other people keep saying we don't have one?
Because because the key to everything, according to Major General Paul Vallely, is convincing Canadians that we do not have a real country, so that they can overthrow us and make us the 51st state. That's why.
Yeah, and I think that and I remember you saying this, like more than a month ago now, going, do you really want to go down this? Like, this is going to be somewhere you don't want to be. And I can tell you, after being on here and co-hosting you, I was like, dang it. Because there is a lot of this. There is a lot of manipulation, There is a lot of funds coming up to Canadian podcasters, or even Canadians that are living in America that are podcasters, that are being influenced by large numbers and being paid $500 for each person that they find, that goes to the States. So if you are a true Canadian, aren't you going to try to help Canada? Like, if you don't want to, beat it, Viva and the rest. Go to Florida, Arizona, or Texas. We'll put that other gentleman there as well. Have a life. Leave us alone. Right? Like, I'm super proud.
It's just so corrupt, isn't it?
I'm so proud to be Canadian. Like, they can all do the.
And you see here, and it didn't take long for us to find that thread and connect that dot, even through what we're going through right now. And why? Because much of this is being fought on the battle lines of the culture war. And as part of that, it's this transgender issue, which goes back to what I said the first day of coverage of this, which is that and I think last night too, it's that, you could see it. You could feel the tension as the people on the pro 51st state side of the equation were just hoping and praying that this would be a transgender shooter. They so wanted it to be. And then when it seems that that's the case, now it's like pedal to the metal, all like gas, no break.
It's like they won a small little battle.
They won. Yeah, they won this.
And I think that's where it's horrible. And I have a couple of friends who are very anti-trans movement, anti-SOGI. And I had conversations with them over the past 2 days and said, I work with individuals who feel that they were born into the wrong body. And I tell everyone, I don't have an issue. You want me to call you a lampshade? I'll call you a lampshade. I don't have any issues when I'm working with someone one-on-one. It's not my business what they do. If it affects me, if it scares me or harms me or someone else, that's when I stand up. But I don't think it's anyone's business. And I do understand both sides of it. I understand that people are concerned that there's persuasion happening. I get that. I understand that, brainwashing, all of the rhetoric. But I also understand there are people that believe that they are born in the wrong body and they do have the right to take care of themselves in whatever way. But I have shared this, and this might be sharing too much, but as a female who struggled with cramps and hormones and moods, there was one point I remember my mom wouldn't let me go in the house unless I was on rose hip oil because my mood swings were so challenging. And so what my concerns are is, have we tested this stuff? Do we know it's okay? Because it's another thing that I feel that's just happened in the last couple of years. And I think we definitely have to, every parent needs to be concerned. And it's the same as, quite frankly, religion or abortion. It's that family and it's that person's responsibility. And that's up to them. It's not up to us to tell someone else what to do.
It really isn't anything new. It's just that in the past, it's been pushed off to the side where people don't see it. It's been in the closet, if you want to refer to it that way. And that's why even today, people do not know that. You see, if you really want to, this is the conversation the people on the conservative side don't want to have, even though they say they want to have it. They say they want to have this discussion based on the science or the medical facts and the reality of it, but they don't really want to acknowledge the reality of it because I did a long broadcast with somebody on this program about, it's got to be almost a year ago now. Do you know what a hermaphrodite is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's somebody born with both male and
Genitalia.
female genitalia.
Mm-hmm.
That's because this is not a black and white, cut and dried North versus South issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a human sexuality comes as shades of gray.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say that somebody born, in my view, if you're born with male genitalia, you have male genitalia.
Mm-hmm.
Female genitalia, female genitalia. But you cannot deny that there are people born with both male and female genitalia. And even with that in mind, I think that it is accurate to say that you have variations in how male or female someone, feminine or masculine someone is, based on hormone levels, genetics,
Mm-hmm.
DNA, all of those kinds of factors. That's why you have some girls who are tomboys. You have some boys who are more feminine, if you will, than
Mm-hmm.
others, because you have gradations. And even if you have people being exposed to chemicals that may be affecting their hormone levels, that's still a reality. That's their reality, and you can't deny that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing but see, people on the conservative side, they don't want to acknowledge any of that. And certainly people with a very strong religious bent, they don't want to accept any of it. It's the male or female. That's it. Black and white. End of discussion. What do you do with all the other people? Well, that's very complicated, isn't it? And I'm sorry, but the science says, and the statistics prove empirically, that as much as 20% of the population falls somewhere within that group that they don't want to talk about. So what do you do with all of those people? And what do you do with someone who is born that way as a baby? Do you then say, well, you're born that way, so you're not allowed to have any kind of surgery to alter anything one way or the other? And now you're getting into the area of parental rights versus the rights of the child. And if the parents have differing views on that, which parent has the clout to make a decision? And this is, again, the conversation the people on the right really do not want to have. They say we want parental rights, but they don't want to talk about that kind of issue. Because the truth of the matter is, when I hear people on the right and it's saying that they are all for parental rights, or these politicians who are saying it as well, they are full of crap. They are not for parental rights. They're actually for the opposite. They are for state control over the children, which is to say that they want to prevent a parent from making a decision on behalf of their child when it comes to any kind of a sex change or transitioning or anything like that. And I'm not making a statement or here tonight on how I feel about it personally, other than to say this is a really difficult thing, because you do have to weigh the rights of the child heavily here and the interests of the child. But I'm not so sure that the state gets it right. And I'm not so sure that the parents get it right. And so how do you protect a child who can't really advocate for themselves, for him or herself or theirselves, or however you want to phrase that, when they're just a child? They're maybe even a baby and can't even communicate. What do you want? Do you want this done to you now as a baby, or do you have to wait until you're 21 years old or 19, at which time it isn't the optimal time to have that kind of surgery done? I don't have the answers. I'm just saying that this is a problem. That real families face, real human beings face, and we need to be tolerant and understanding and realize that is the reality. That's the reality. It's not black and white. And it frustrates me to no end, especially when I see this issue being exploited for political reasons, because as people become more polarized through an incident like this, and people become more tolerant, more and angrier, and these decisions are made on an emotional level, people who really do need proper support and help, they get pushed to the side again, marginalized, where they're shoved off into a closet someplace, so that honestly, it's mostly people on the right who just don't want to deal with it. So they'd rather just have them all shoved off into the darkness again, where they don't have to talk about it.
A friend calls that the woke right. The people that it's their way or no way, similar to what my experience is with the woke left.
With the other left. Yes, it's this intolerance on the other side too. This is the problem.
And I think I still stand by the fact that we need to have conversations. Not we, but those individuals. Those are family challenges. It shouldn't be up to a group of right-wing or left-wing people to project on there. You
used the right word. Individuals. It always comes down to that. No, it's not cut and dried. It's not black and white. Every human being is different. Every single one of us. And that's what we have to protect. The rights of the individual must be paramount. And in this case, I would say the rights of the child over the rights of the parents and the state. Yeah. So somehow we have to find a way to protect the rights of the child from birth on.
There's also the other side of things, where in the United States, the first case has just come up where an individual has won $2 million against her psychiatrist and her doctor because she had her breasts removed because she was transitioning to be male. So I think, while we're saying this, it's still none of my business what's going on in this family's life. But I think we also have to acknowledge the fact that some people, may have changed their mind, or maybe that's not them. And as a girl who grew up playing hockey with the boys for 9 years, I played soccer, I played t-ball with the boys. I was a tomboy. And there's more times that I care to say that I thought, what, I may have been, if I had a teacher that persuaded me, because I think that is a concern. There are some teachers, there are some, even coaches maybe that are persuading. And I think those people need to stay out of it.
Yes, and the state needs to stay out of it. The CBC needs to stay out of it, to do programming on state broadcasting to sort of promote anything on a sexual level like that involving children, I think is entirely inappropriate. And, this is the thing. I don't think you should be promoting any aspect of this where children are concerned, because you need to be just concerned about their rights and what is in their best interest, their welfare. But I have seen, also on the state side, the left-hand side of the political
Yeah.
spectrum, it's too much that way. And
So
and
let me
yeah.
put a little spoke in your bike here,
Yeah.
or a stick in your spokes, I should say. So I have a friend who lives in Fort St. John. She
Yeah.
just messaged me, and she said a lot of things. She's very frustrated. I offered her to come on, and she said she can't because she's so angry that she doesn't want to resent whatever she says today. But she says what her problem is the fact the RCMP officer did not correctly identify. They were saying it was a gun person. So here's another level of challenges. And if you watched it, if you heard it, they corrected it and they said gun person.
Yeah.
And so I wrote up a little thing, and I realize this is not going to be a popular situation, but you and I have both read the news where we have shared what a person looks like that has robbed someone or that has assaulted someone, and it gets in detail. The first thing is it's a white male, right? So that's the first thing. And so all that was said is a brown-haired female in a brown dress.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is my suggestion, and I'm open to being wrong and I'm open to being corrected, but this is what I would have written. And I'm assuming some of the numbers here, but 6'2", 185 pounds, brown hair, slim bill, brown facial hair, wearing a brown dress and black army boots, male in gender, appearing as female. And
Fair.
why I think this is important. So in a small town, I trust that the RCMP know this individual. I know they're going to have a name. My concern is in larger areas, we do need to be more specific. And that I understand that where all of the information is being sent out is Vancouver. It's a larger center. They're very, respectful of transgender, about equality, about, respecting everyone as an individual. I totally get and appreciate that. But why it's frustrating for so many, including my friend here, is they said gun person. And when wasn't it Trudeau that said something of that nature? And I think this is the issue. And I understand when you have a child that is 2 hours away from this, or you have a child that's the same age and it's now on Canadian soil, this mass shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, we need something to be mad at. I totally get that. And also too, if we are not mad at something, then our beliefs do not exist. I think that's something that psychologically we should all be educated on, because if I'm really mad at the COVID shot, at Soji, at whatever, then I'm steadfast in my belief, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we need to acknowledge. And, kudos to my friend for saying that she is too heated, that she can't come on and share her point of view today. But I think that's where a lot of frustrations are when you have RCMP spokesperson in Vancouver that's it's now 20 hours away from Tumbler Ridge, speaking on behalf of a small community. Obviously the RCMP in the small community, they probably can't even speak. So I give them all the credit. With them, the BC ambulance service, likely the fire department was involved in all this. But I think when you choose to be politically correct, and maybe, I don't want to say too sensitive, but you've now triggered a lot of people that are pissed off at this situation, and they have every right. They're 2 hours away. They received that, shelter in place on their phone. They are frustrated with a lot of the things that are happening in our education system. They are frustrated that the government in ways is trying to take over what family life should look like, what a child's right is, when kids could start to divorce from their parents. no one can give lickings anymore. Not saying I love it. I don't have kids, so should I have an opinion on that? But I think that just it's another wedge in this challenge that we are all struggling with, and I trust that good things will come out of this. I'll trust that there will be an investigation on even the verbiage that was used, but it still doesn't help the fact that, we're only 48 hours out of this horrific tragedy in Canada. And maybe all of us are not handling it as well as we could, as well as we should, because we're just not emotionally, we're not emotionally healthy or educated or insert whatever you want to say here yet.
Again, emotion is a key word here because it's hard to make good decisions when you are emotional about it. So now is really, I think, the wrong time to make any kind of long-term decisions with regard to any of this, whether it's gun control or transitioning or any of these issues. Some time should pass so some healing can take place, so people can think rationally and then make good decisions after the mourning has subsided a little bit. Not that it's ever going to completely end, especially for the families who will never stop mourning.
Well, and there's also a process to grief, and anger is the first part, right? So that is just the first step. And we know that we can bounce back forth, from negotiating to anger to, depression. Depression is usually one right before you actually have acceptance of it. And like I said, we're just 48 hours into this.
And we need to be careful that we do not allow ourselves to be exploited by influencers, any media outlets that are exploiting the situation by exploiting our anger.
And also because that's what they get the clicks for. That's what they get the likes for. They get the shares for. And I think, I would love to have like a big bullhorn to share this to people, is to be cautious. Maybe if you are leaning to the right, start looking at some news stories to the left. Make sure you're going, if you're on TikTok, hit refresh. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, hit refresh so you get a different algorithm in there so that you can see both sides of it.
And this is also an opportunity and a time for reflection, which I talk about here quite often. Sometimes I say, it's time to pause and reflect and assess things, because this is a time not just for us to reflect, but I think especially the government, for mainstream media outlets, CBC, and independent media outlets as well, to reflect on what's happened, how what the response has been, how all of these organizations and individuals have responded, myself included. Did I respond appropriately? Did I do the right things? Did I serve the public interest here, or did I serve myself?
And those are questions we all should be asking every day. Like, what is our intention? Right? Like, what is our intention on, even what is my intention on coming on here? I told some friends about it. One said they can't watch because they've had a child that's passed away and it's too close to home. And I think I want to learn more. I want to know more. That's why I keep coming on here. If you ask me, I'll be happy to come on. I think you've helped me look at the fact that obviously I knew that I have such a bee in my bonnet for the right leaning podcasters and media right now, because they have completely hooped over a small community that I'm super passionate about. But I think, at the end of the day, we all have to look and say, what is our intention? Even what are we sharing on social media? What are we adding to it? Are we creating more bullshit? Are we looking for truth? I think it's super important that we share the good news. And like we shared that the one gal, there's two that are in Vancouver, that one did, is recovering now. And like that's important. I trust that some investigation will have happen because of all of this, with the RCMP's dealing of it, in Vancouver and in Tumbler Ridge. But one thing I think we really need to acknowledge is when that 911 call came in Tumbler Ridge, RCMP were on site in 2 minutes. And I think those are the stories that we need to share, the good news. And it's really easy for you and I and all of us to get caught up in the negative and not share the good, putting that grief to good.
I think too, you're dealing with a small community and a small RCMP detachment that, the officers working there, they never would expect anything like this would happen in their community. And when it does, they have limited resources. And yet, through all of it, I would say that overall, their response has been much better than it's being portrayed by some of the live streamers out there. And I know that the family also very frustrated that, as you heard in that clip, that they didn't get the information from police during the day, which I wonder about that too. But I also understand that you're dealing with very, like, how many people really work at that detachment? How much experience do they have dealing with anything on this level? I can't say. I don't know. But
and can they be machines, and can they shut off their emotions, and can they go to work? Like,
right.
this is a human element of all of us. RCMP are trained, but are they trained? So, for example, if I call RCMP, I often say, can you please send someone trained in mental health? Because that's not always the case. Someone that's experienced in it. And like I said, all those RCMP officers knew kids in that school. Their kids were in that school,
Yes.
And
Small community.
We can pick it apart all we want. But like I said, I think we have to shift and change. And it's unfortunate that, the big city took over the liaison of it, but I understand why. But they are digging a deeper hole. Yeah, they needed to, but they're digging a deeper hole that is helping us separate just a little bit more rather than bringing us together.
You need this experience and the depth and the assistance, because you're dealing with something on an international level here, and they need to make sure that the words are properly chosen, especially now, especially after what we saw with the gun person word used, right? And look at the furor that caused. So they need to be careful. And again, this is an opportunity for RCMP, police, the whole community, everybody to reflect and review this. There should be a review at some point so that we can deal with these things better in the future, or even better, maybe prevent them from happening. And to do that, we really need to look at things without the emotion, I think. And I hope that helps. My views.
If you're okay to take a small break, I do have a text from a person in the Peace region that I can read out here.
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to show something here.
Sure.
And this is going to be a little bit graphic. Not from the shooting. Okay. Viewer discretion advised. These are medical images. To illustrate my point, again, as I did during the long form broadcast quite some time ago. For those of you who may question what I was talking about, either no, there are people born with both male and female genitalia. And sometimes these people are among us in the community, they're alongside us, and you don't even know, because they dress as a male or a female when in fact they actually have both male and female genitalia. There is not just one sex or the other. There are also people like this. These are photos, medical photos of hermaphrodites or people who are intersex. And this is a very difficult question that families need to deal with from time to time. And if you look up the stats on this, it could be as much as 15, 20% of the population that would be classified as intersex. I don't know what else to tell you, folks. I know that people don't want to acknowledge this stuff, but it's right there for you to see, right in your face, unfortunately, because some people just don't really want to acknowledge what is actual reality. This is real. And I know it's an uncomfortable thing and maybe even a revolting thing to some people, but that is reality.
And I think also too, the term two-spirited was coined in was it the 90s, in regards to indigenous cultures that had feminine and masculine. And my understanding is, well, that term, it was coined recently, well, recently for us, it has been around for thousands of years. And those who are two-spirited were very important. They were revered in the culture, and they were thought to have special powers and be, I don't want to say a saint, but they were higher up than the rest of the indigenous. And so there's those stories as well. So I realize that a lot of this is, anchored in Christianity, and how that there shouldn't be gays. The issue is if you look in Latin or, Greek, there's no such thing as gay in the Bible. When they translated it, they chose to put that in there. Those words do not exist in Jesus's time. So I think if you want to really dig deep, it's gonna upset you.
You can look. I know a lot of people, even as I'm showing you the photographs of people born exactly like that, people still won't accept it. And that's been the case all through history.
But I think
many different cultures. And in some cases, people have been revered and elevated to special places in communities in ancient societies. In other cases, they've been perceived
burned
as
at the stake.
That's right, and even it's resulted in infanticide on a mass scale in past cultures, including in Greece. So it's not an easy thing for people to deal with. It's an uncomfortable subject, and it's not going to change because this is not going away.
But if I can just say, I remember when I was 19, my first gay friend, Brent, came out. His family did not handle it well. In fact, his dad had suicidal ideations. And I remember Brent and I hung out all the time. It was like the first gay dude we knew, besides like Rock Hudson or, someone, Liberace, right? Elton John. And I remember my dad asking me, like, what is Brent like? And I was like, he's the best guy to ever go to the bar with. He helps me with my hair, helps me with my makeup, slaps my butt, and doesn't hit on me the whole entire night. So he was like the best pal for me to ever go to the bar with. And why I share this is that you don't really care about something until it's in your immediate family. You don't care about someone who's gay unless they're in your family. You don't care that someone's trans unless they're in your world. And it's just like everything, or cancer or HIV or, glioblastoma is really important to me because my friend passed away from it. There's all of these things that don't ever touch your life until they do. And so you can be a hater for all of these things. You can, disregard, say LGB is the only thing that matters and all of the rest of the alphabet, and I understand why some people are taking that stance. I think until it happens in your life, then you don't care. We didn't care about mass shootings until 48 hours ago, right? They were far enough away. They were in Oklahoma, they were in Texas, they weren't up in Canada. Besides the one in Montreal, I should obviously say that happened. And
And
You know,
have
we
had a few.
unfortunately we had a mass shooting in Vernon. Um, gosh, when would that have been? That was the 90s as well. And that was a family member that was distraught and injured the entire family. So there are mass shootings. This one specifically, obviously, at a school shooting.
And
Um,
and as much as I'm, throwing those pictures out for people to, face reality, I also understand the other side. And as a parent whose children are now grown, I I wouldn't want um, schools promoting a lifestyle to my children that I think it should be a personal choice. I don't think schools have any place in that, and I don't want my state broadcaster CBC promoting a lifestyle or those kinds of choices, especially to children. I don't think that's the place of the state necessarily. It's certainly not an organization like CBC to promote that kind of thing to children. But these are difficult issues that families and individuals need to deal with. And I don't have all the answers, folks, because um, I don't think it's my place to tell people how to live or how to raise their kids or as a kid what choices to make. It's not my place. So that's my position is I'm trying not to judge or inject myself into other people's lives.
but Rick, at the same time, you and I have both been in the media for quite some time. Myself for 25 years, but I have not been in it for the last 4.
Yeah.
Why did they take cigarette ads off the television? And why can't they sponsor events anymore? Why don't you drive by and see a billboard of Players Light?
I'm of two minds on that. And here's where I come down on it. It comes down to addiction. See, on the one hand, you would say you're free as an individual, should be free as an individual to make the choice as to whether you smoke cigarettes. But on the other hand, they're selling you a product that enslaves you and takes your choice away because it's so powerfully addictive. And so I don't know that it's proper to allow a company to sell a product out there that addicts people through drug addiction and then you become dependent upon it. I think that takes away your agency and your free choice. So I
You,
understand both sides.
yeah.
Um, but I under that's where the issue lies.
Used to be a big sponsor of NASCAR and race car back in the day.
Yeah,
But then
Winston.
I question, so why can we have Malibu commercials on the TV? And why do we have Budweiser all over the Super Bowl? And
Right.
why do we have every famous person in Hollywood with their own brand of tequila? So if you go and you research the numbers, you have to know that alcohol is the number one addiction. Alcohol is the most car accidents, it's the most domestics, it's the number of people that are in the hospital because of alcohol outrides cigarettes, outrides fentanyl. And if you put all the other drugs combined, alcohol triumphs them. So, on one hand, I hear what you're saying, but alcohol is socially acceptable. And I'm having sober February right now because I was just in Mexico with the family. But, I also struggle with that. I have many friends who are sober now. I know people who, if they want to do the best in sales, in acting, in music, nursing, they've all gotten sober. You know, I think there's another thing that maybe shouldn't be permitted to be advertised. And I imagine a lot of the legacy media won't like me saying that, but
Uh-huh. And here's like, since we're on the topic of addiction, and here's a guy who has been promoting not just
oh yeah,
nic-
he's created his own Zin.
yeah, yeah, that's nicotine, pure nicotine, and he promotes tobacco use. You should smoke, is what he says, you know.
Well, he doesn't say you should smoke. And
oh yes, he's come out and he's you know, he's advocated for it. He loves to smoke. He's a smoker. He you can find videos of him talking about it.
oh, I have. I actually,
Yeah.
and also too, because here's the wild thing. So when COVID was so prevalent, so many of I worked with did not get COVID for the fact that they smoked cigarettes. And nicotine is one of those things that counteracts COVID. So who would have thought, right? So, you know, there are allegedly studies out showing that do they call it a nootropic? How nicotine makes you more alert. You know, whether you're working, it's better than caffeine.
it is not good for you, and it is highly addictive. It's arguably as addictive or more addictive than heroin.
So
So
they are
um,
doing studies now with people with nicotine patches that are doing a light dose of nicotine, just like you would coffee.
it's addictive. Period. It's
So is
addictive.
sugar.
If you're promoting a product that is addictive, then you're enslaving someone. You're
So is
making them
Coca-Cola.
dependent on it. What's that?
So is Coca-Cola. So is sugar. It's one of the hard.
Yeah. Well, you can make these arguments, Angie, but nicotine is highly, highly addictive, and
I don't
um,
disagree with you.
but sugar is not in the same category as nicotine.
So let me tell you a little story about sugar. So if someone's going through an addiction challenge, we often give them chocolate or candy to stave off the next time they use. So for example, I was involved in an organization in the Okanagan called Hope Okanagan. And so what we had is we had candy and chocolates. And what we did is we build relationships over candy. So there is research that shows you can hold off a craving for meth or for fentanyl with sugar. So, and I've had friends who've gone to treatment who they actually deal with the sugar addiction as much as they do with whatever they were addicted to. So there is a sugar addiction, 100%. I'm guilty of the chocolate version of that. Anyways, going back to Tumbler Ridge, I do have a text here from a friend. So she lives 2 hours away in Fort St. John. She did receive the text that said shelter in place. And this is what she had to say, that she's too angry to go on live. Her feelings are big. She's struggling right now with too much of it to speak on. It all makes me angry, furious, really. My anger expresses in a hateful way, and I'm not a hateful person. So I don't want to have anything spewed out that I have to take back later when I know the feelings could have been more expressed eloquently later.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, though, it's hard to believe that anything could make a high school shooting more disgusting than it has been. It's horrifying, it's senseless, it's devastating all by itself. Yet here we are. Those child's lives have been taken away and overshadowed by a fight for this mentally unwell child's identity. There have been more talk about the trans factor and the cops defending the identity of that child than there has been of those innocent lives that have been lost. The trauma that poor girl endured, fighting for her life, suffering from a gunshot wound to the head and one to her throat. I haven't seen one news story sharing about the mother's heartbreak waiting for her child to die in her arms. Mm-hmm. No one's talking about how sick this child was and how our system has failed it. Over and over again. No one is talking about who's going to be responsible for the over-medicating and possibly releasing this child back to cause harm, for putting the guns back in the hands, for not seeking proper help. Didn't that person cry for help? In fact, they screamed, they begged for it. There was not enough attention on that. Mm-hmm. But I have seen at least 20 reels about how that cop corrected the media mispronouncing the shooter's gender. She said, "This is all fucking gross." And then she says, "You know what? I shouldn't say to no one. It's probably being talked about.
I'm sorry, Angie. I wasn't really actually listening because I was distracted. Can you repeat what you were just saying? Because I'd like to clue into what you were talking about. I'm sorry.
My girlfriend says no one's talking about how sick this child was and has been failed by the system. No one's talking about who's going to be responsible for over-medicating and releasing the child back to cause harm. Mm-hmm. For putting the guns back in their hands, for not seeking proper help. That person cried for help. They screamed for it and begged for it, and no one helped. And then she came back and said, I shouldn't say no one helped. It's probably being talked about. It's just not at the forefront. What she's disgusted as is that everyone's talking about the misgendering of the individual and the officer correcting it. She's frustrated, saying that's not the issue. That shouldn't be the forefront of this. It should be the victims.
True.
She said the most important elements of this tragedy are being buried beneath hate speech and ideology. And this is all hard to digest. So this is a friend of mine. She lives in Fort St. John. Her and I were roommates when I worked at the radio station in Fort St. John. And she is one that received the text that said they needed to shelter in place. Fort St. John is about 170 kilometers from Tumbler Ridge. So, you know, if you were driving safely, about a 2-hour drive. And so she's been at that school before. Her daughter has played sports there. We've all been to a music festival called Grizz Fest in Tumbler Ridge. It's a lovely little quaint community.
Mm-hmm.
A mining town.
So, you know, I want to be accurate on the information I share here. And so, you know, I've been looking up the stats on intersex and hermaphrodites and LGBTQ plus. And as I'm using AI to look up the information. And right now in the US, these are US stats, you know, about 9% of US adults identify as LGBTQ plus, 5% bisexual, 2% gay, 1.4% lesbian, 1.3% transgender, and people born intersex with potentially both sets of genitalia, somewhere around maybe 1.5%.
Mm-hmm.
So you add all of that up, and I think just on the intersex side, it's millions of people. Millions of people worldwide, of course, and you know, 1 to 1.5% of people born with both sets of genitalia. There are reports on it online as well. I mean, you can go find news stories about it, documentaries, the problems that families face when they're dealing with this stuff. And then when you just add up all of the, you know, pansexual, queer, you know, all of that, 10, 15%. And because of what's been going on in our society as well, younger people, in some cases now, as much as 20% identify as LGBTQ plus. So I try not to judge people. I don't like our government promoting things. That's my view. But any way you slice it, you cannot deny the biological reality that all through history, some people are born with both sets of genitalia, and you can't just exclude those folks, and they need support, they need help, and the children and the parents. And when someone is born that way, decisions have to be made. And if you're passing legislation or you're passing a law that prevents people from getting a sex change, then how do you say to the family of a child born as a hermaphrodite or intersex with both sets of genitalia, no, you're not allowed to do anything? You see? So it's not a one size fits all solution. That's my point.
And what family member would be?
It doesn't matter. What's that?
What family, like, I can't imagine choosing the sex of my child.
I know.
At first, when you have to choose. So, and then you understand why, and it sounds silly when people are saying, Are you a boy or are you a girl? And it sounded ridiculous until you brought up this statistic when parents actually do have to choose. What is this child's name going to be? How do you think are, and also there's some that don't have the sexual organs that actually work, but there are some that actually do produce sperm and do produce the eggs. Like that's a whole other scenario there, right? So yeah, and like I said before, that's a family decision that should be made with the doctor. That shouldn't be the others, including us, projecting our beliefs on what they're.
And there's the question. Do the parents get to decide, or should it be up to the child to decide? Should that decision be made at the time of, when they're born, to have an operation done? And I mean, then you can extend this out. What about circumcision? What about female genital mutilation? All of these things come down largely to culture, and religion. I don't want to go there, man, because good luck resolving any of that. Religion, culture. No. But hey, if you want, you can go to Alex Jones and buy methylene blue and engage in all your natural health remedies over there. It literally turns your brain blue, by the way. That blows my mind. Ironically, that this is what's going on. Meanwhile, they're telling you, they advocate for natural health solutions. Government's trying to kill you. Big pharma's trying to murder you. Buy my methylene blue. This is why they lose me, man.
And Tucker Carlson's nicotine pouches that are meant for your mouth only, by the way.
Yeah. And I had, my relatives, some of my uncles in the past, my grandfather used to always have a can of Copenhagen, right? Mm-hmm. Chewing tobacco, just a little between your lip and your cheek and your gums, right?
My uncle had that as well, and he had throat cancer.
Yeah. So there's freedom, and then there's freedom, and these are not easy questions to answer.
But I think you just said a good point there. So because of our fight for freedom on both sides of the spectrum, including the convoy, including COVID shots, all the things, I think this is just another extension of all of that.
It is.
It's another reason for us to divide instead of bringing us together. And like I said, I think it's more important to celebrate Paige, who is now out of surgery, and telling everyone that she is doing well. So instead of us pounding the pavement and being aggressive and unkind to those we don't know, perhaps it's more important for us to check in with our neighbors and see how they're doing, and maybe reaching out, volunteering for an organization that deals with LGBTQ plus and, stuff that you don't like, quite frankly. The reason I got involved in the unhoused sector is I didn't like all of the homeless folks downtown, wouldn't even drive down some of the roads. Now I have no issue walking there at night. I obviously have more experience and have learned by osmosis by being involved. But I think that's what people need to do. So instead of creating more of a wedge between us, maybe start connecting with those that we disagree with.
Yeah. Well, we're dealing with some tough subjects here tonight, a tough situation. I'm sure that some of the people didn't want to hear some of the things that I said tonight,
or see some of the pictures that you brought up.
That's right. But I can't, you know what? Okay. As much as I know a lot about, spin and shaping people's reality, I can't change the reality, and I can't change the truth. People might not want to look at it. You might not want to think about it, but I can't change it. What I showed you tonight is just the hard truth. And I don't care, as much as I respect Maxime Bernier. He's posting about it tonight, sending out an email. There are only two sexes. No,
From
there
Florida?
are not.
He's sending that out from Florida?
I don't know where he is tonight. He might be there. But yeah, I mean, just as I get his emails, right? It's not true. It is just not true.
Well,
so I can't help that. It's not like a political position. It's not an opinion. It's not me trying to spin this this is just the hard reality. It's not like metaphysical. It's not religion for me. It's not, it's not interdimensional in any way. This is just the hard reality out there. You can look at it or not. You don't have to deal with it if you don't want to, but I can't change it. And if you want the truth, you're in the right place. That's the truth. Deal with it or not. Your choice, I guess. You're free to reject the truth and live the lie or not. I choose to live in reality, because that is where I find freedom. I'm not going to live a lie. I'm not going to walk around saying there's only two sexes. There's only two sexes, because it's not true. And I am enslaving myself when I insist that there are only two sexes. And in order to live that lie, I have to oppress others. I have to insist that other people live that way as well, in order to protect my view of what I think reality is, which is not reality. It's a lie. So in order for me to live my lie, to make myself feel better, I have to insist that other people live that lie as well, or I refuse to acknowledge them, or refuse to help them, or even realize that they are there. That is not freedom for me or for them. That's my view, because that is reality, and I want to live in the real world. That's truth. Final thoughts tonight, Angie, because I know you have to go to get out there and donate blood.
Yeah, I'm going to go to donate plasma here in the Okanagan, and I encourage everyone else to. If you go to blood.ca, you're going to be able to do that. So I'm going with a couple of friends because we wanted to do something to honor the kids that have passed away, and also the kids that are fighting for their life. I think I just want to share, just trying to open it back up here, but Paige's story again. Paige was one of the two young ladies flown to Vancouver. She was in critical condition with a gunshot wound to her chest. She is now out of surgery, and there is a picture, a brief message from Paige. It says, "I want to tell everyone that I'm okay and I'm recovering. Hashtag Tumbler Ridge Strong." And her family has a GoFundMe that is out there. Donate to Paige and her road to recovery. Obviously it's devastating for that small community, as there's 9 people that have passed away. And we have one hopeful right now that's going to do a full recovery. There's still one that's in surgery that's touch and go. And there's also 25 others who were injured in this. So if everyone can just do their part, whether you can donate, whether you can grab those on your social medias and share, or you want to do something unique and donate some blood or plasma, look up blood.ca.
All right. And with that, I will wrap it up, and we will see everybody back here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. Be kind to each other until we reconvene on the flip side.
Drifting down without a sound, a gentle touch upon the ground. No two the same, yet side by side, like you and me in this great tide. Like a fingerprint from God, frozen tears from up above. Each one special, each one rare, a fleeting wonder light is there. Here for a moment, then melting away. Gone in the sunlight, lost in the day. Taken for granted, so easy to miss. Like life itself, so fragile is this. A million fall, yet each stands true. A perfect shape, a different hue. Just like us, no two alike. A spark of life, a soul in flight. Like a fingerprint from God, frozen tears from up above. Each one special, each one rare. A fleeting wonder light is air. Here for a moment, then melting away. Gone in the sunlight, lost in the day. Taken for granted, so easy to miss. Like life itself, so fragile is this. A million falling, yet each stands true. A perfect shape, a different hue. Just like us, no two alike. Like life itself, so fragile is this. Like you, like me, we shine, we fade. Yet every soul is beautifully made. A moment to love, a moment to stay. Before we drift, before we stray. Cherish the snowflakes, here only for a moment, then melt away.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.